Going through this book, that is Social Science Textbook for Grade 7, Part 1, Exploring Society, India and Beyond. I'm going to talk about money today, that is from barter to digital. Very interestingly, we have in chapter 11 from barter to the present day. And so the big question is, how did exchange take place before money? Why did money come into existence, and how has money transformed into various forms over time? So that'll be an interesting journey into the story of money. So while going through money, we come across these words as transaction, commodities. So what are commodities? Products or goods that can be traded, bought and sold. And what is a transaction? That is a piece of business that is done between people, especially an act of buying or selling. And then, what is money? It is a common tool that everybody accepts and uses in order to make or receive payments in exchange for goods and services. That is, money is a matter of functions for a standard, a medium, an exchange, standard, and store. So initially, people started exchanging goods for goods. That was a barter system, a way of exchanging goods and services. The good itself was money. One good for another. Talking about India's financial journey, it has evolved over centuries, as you can see in this timeline. So, from barter system, then you have the cowries, the shells, then to coins, metal coinage, there is iron, silver, gold, copper. Then for the longest time until today also we have what is the paper currency. Then you have what is the checks we have, the bank money as you call it. Then you have the digital money, the debit cards and the credit cards. And of course today we have what is the UPI, that is you have what is the QR codes, etc. So for much of its, or for the longest time, cash has remained the dominant mode of transaction. However, a limited segment, especially urban-centric and rich rural population, had access to checks and demand drafts that were formalized but slow payment. Then in the early 2000s, marked the beginning of the digital transformation in payments. It was a Reserve Bank of India that introduced systems like the real-time gross settlement, that is RTGS, in 2004, and in 2010 we had the immediate payment service, IMPS. This was a significant milestone limited to the banking ecosystem. That is, only those who were in the ambit of the banking ecosystem, they could make use of it. Then they came up with this Jan Dhan, Aadhaar and mobile connectivity. The JAM Trinity came up. The Jan Dhan, the Aadhaar, linked to the Aadhaar, and the mobile connectivity and the internet. Now let me just talk about the Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana that enabled large-scale opening of zero balance account, and it ensured all the citizens were connected. So everybody who was a citizen of India could have this Jan Dhan account. And secondly, we're talking about Aadhaar. That's an Aadhaar card, information of the person, that is that was reliable to their digital identity. So helpful in precise targeting and seamless delivery of service. And the rapid connectivity of internet, that is mobile for banking, was the defining moment in Indian money history in India. So all this was for real-time interface for financial transactions with authentication and communication. So these three pillars, that is Jan Dhan, Aadhaar, and mobile connectivity, these three key pillars, they served a distinct purpose collectively. They have strengthened the financial ecosystem. The Indian citizens were exposed to formal banking through engaging with digital services, and this was indeed a liberating movement. For example, just to take a small example, say paying bills. Paying bills meant standing in long queues, sending money required, and you had to visit the bank there, filling out so many forms, and then also waiting for confirmation for days. Today, almost all have access to banking financial system. It is inclusive to all. The integrated framework found its full expression through direct benefit transfer, that is DBT. So direct benefit transfer. The most important thing was, or the biggest advantage, that any government monetary benefit that the government gives to the weaker section or anybody are delivered directly into the bank account of the needy. So that's really no middleman. You don't have to pass it on to some officer who gives it to its clerk, etc. Another thing that is, the people, the younger generation especially, they have this increasing trust and the familiarity with the digital financial transactions. And another advantage is that it has paved the way for adoption of platforms such as UPI, Unified Payment Interface. A radical innovation indeed, and it is in its simplicity. Now, UPI, when was it launched? How did it come about? It was launched in 2016 by the National Corporation of India. This system simplified how money moves in India. Simply, if you think of how do you simply explain it, it enables any bank account to connect with another bank account. Simply, if you really simply explain it, that so your bank account connects with any bank account, and that is how the money transfers so easily, without any paperwork, nothing. Through a virtual payment address, removing the need to share detailed banking information, etc. And then no account numbers to memorize. Also, it replaces complex inputs like account numbers, IFSC codes with a simple interface. Users only need a mobile number, a UPI ID, and then it has a secure authentication to initiate instant transfers, and transactions can be done round the clock across banks and applications. And well, with this interoperability has helped the UPI to expand its network rapidly. Digital transactions have become the norm in India because it was more accessible, more reliable, and widely adopted across income groups and regions. And then let's talk about QR codes. That is, you just scan and pay. That is a tagline. And QR code today is embedded in everyday economic fabric of India today. And you must have seen it yourself. It's the street vendors, be it street vendors, auto rickshaw drivers, the Ubers, the Olas, the Amazon, whatever, or any of these, the Blinkits, Uber Eats, and of course, no struggling with change, and importantly, no handling, say, dirty currency notes that changes hands, etc. Also, a worker can send money across to their village households in a jiffy. Only a smartphone, a bank account needed. And today, in this system, the divide disappears: rural, urban, formal, informal. So we are on one way to financial inclusion. And we have also something known as UPI autopay that streamlines recurring expenses such as utility bills and subscriptions. So if they are, especially subscriptions, if they are the same every month, they just, or even like the electricity bills or the telephone bills, etc., they just every month they know that it gets deducted from there automatically. So that is access to pre-approved credit lines. Isn't it a payment revolution? It is. What a payment revolution. So, well, this is actually a homegrown, built in from under a decade now. It leads the world. What began as an effort to include the unbanked has become the global gold standard for real-time payment. And generally you'll hear people say in the financial lingo, from the Qs to the QR codes. UPI has made financial transactions faster, simpler, and transparent, and truly inclusive, paving the way for India's progress for sure, and also taking care of the climate change. See how much paper we preserve. I mean, so UPI means zero waste payment power. It eliminates paper receipts, reducing carbon footprint associated with cash logistics, a step towards a cleaner, greener future. So in this page you can see the lady with the grocer there, and he's got this QR code. And what does it QR code stand for? Quick response codes. These are collections of black and white squares which are readable by devices like smartphones and QR scanners. They contain information about the receiver's bank account and are used for making monetary transactions, as you see. Can you see the QR code there? So look at that. So what a journey from the tangible forms of money, such as coins and paper money. Money has taken an intangible forms that we cannot touch and feel. So this is called the digital money, which is in electronic form. So you have this unified payment interface, the UPI, like debit cards, credit cards, net banking, etc. are used for transactions. These mediums directly transfer money from one person's bank account into another. And this was simply an interesting way of letting you know what has been the interesting journey of money. Look at these. Paper money first was used in China, was introduced in India in the late 18th century. Unifaced notes of Bank of Bengal, which is left, and 10 rupee note from the Bank of Bombay. And these are the recent notes, and every note has, or the paper currency, they have some pictures. You find out what they are, I must share it with me. So these are the ancient coins, these are the gold coins, these are the silver coins. So you have the Chalukyas and the Cholas, and you know that there are two sides of a coin you must have heard of, the heads and the tail. So what is the head called? Obverse, and the tail is reverse. So there, I hope you enjoyed the lesson, the journey of money. So thank God we are not in the barter system today. Just look at these pictures, it shows how difficult it is. You have to have double coincidence of wants. That means that two people have something to exchange and both should want the same thing. See, suppose this man has got this cow and he wants a pair of shoes and maybe a sweater or some medicines. So obviously he just can't exchange one cow for these things. So because when he goes to the cobbler, he doesn't want the cow, he wants some rice. So he goes to the rice seller, he gets few bags there, and maybe he sells half of it to the cobbler. Then he'll go to a store to buy this, medicine, shoes, etc. So it was really difficult. And then you have to have a common standard of measure of value, that you have to agree upon the worth of the transaction that helps in determining the value of goods and services in the economy. And then the object should be able to be split into pieces or portions. You can't do that with a goat or a cow, etc. And then of course portability, it should be easy to handle. And then deferred payments, that means you can make that, if you have the money, you should be able to make payments in the future. So all this was a big problem when the barter system was there, and that was eliminated when the money came, and it was a good measure of exchange, a standard of value, store of value. And for deferred payments, it was overcame all the problems of the barter system, as you see. So I want you to explain this to me and in the chat and in the comments. And one more comment, if you can put, or you can let me know, is sort of speak to your parents or anybody and find out how do they find making payments digitally better than paying money, or is the digital payment better? So ask them questions around that, make a little questionnaire, find it out, and or even for your own benefit, do that and enjoy the journey of the money.